The turnaround to my thinking is an unusual kind of turnaround. This is not one of your standard turnarounds to the self, to the other, to the opposite. Even the Yahoo turnaround is kind of a special turnaround, but this one's even less frequently seen. It's called the turnaround to my thinking. And the way it works is it's usually, first of all, it doesn't work for most statements, but it usually works for inanimate objects. For example, you might have the idea that the project is impossible, and that can be turned around to my thinking about the project is impossible. So here's how you do it. You just simply replace or add my thinking about into the original sentence. So if it's smoking is disgusting, then smoking is an inanimate object. You can say inanimate object and hold that loosely. It's like a thing, something, not necessarily a person usually. So my thinking about smoking is disgusting. That's the turnaround to my thinking. And it's useful. Like instead of just smoking being disgusting, it's turned around to my thinking about smoking's disgusting. Or September is desolate would turn around to my thinking about September is desolate. This happens a lot with body and body parts. So sometimes you're doing the work on different body parts, body images. And for example, my stomach is fat. You would turn it around to my thinking about my stomach is fat. And then you have to think, what does fat mean when it's applied to my thinking? Maybe it means that I'm holding on to everything, like that's the way my thinking is working. So it's kind of like being fat. Or maybe it's really heavy or really something like that. So you have to kind of expand what it means to be fat in your thinking versus just fat in your body. Sometimes we say I instead of my body, like when you're talking about your whole body. A lot of us use the word just I to represent the body. And if that's the case, then you can still use this turnaround to my thinking. Like for example, instead of saying my stomach is fat, maybe I say I am fat. And we could turn it around to my thinking is fat, just by adding my thinking. And notice I didn't use the about. I didn't you don't always have to use about, but basically you're inserting my thinking. One other thing is that standard turnarounds, like to the self, the other, and the opposite, may still apply. Just because I found the turnaround to my thinking, for example, say the statement is, this town is boring, and the turnaround to my thinking is, my thinking about this town is boring. Just because I found that turnaround doesn't mean that the turnaround to the self or the other or the opposite or even the Yahoo turnaround couldn't be useful. So here's the turnaround to the self. I am boring. And it's a different way of saying it. My thinking about this town is boring, or I am boring. They have slightly different flavors. So if you find it useful, you can always use that. What I often find is that the turnaround to my thinking is kind of a replacement for the turnaround to the self. They're similar, not exactly the same, but you may want to look at both of them. Turnaround to the other, in this case, this town is boring. There's not really a turnaround to the other unless you say other towns are boring, which it could be a valid turnaround to the other. Turnaround to the opposite, this town is not boring, or this town is exciting, or the Yahoo turnaround, this town is boring, yay, how is it a good thing? So you can see these other turnarounds add different flavors, and I encourage you to explore those turnarounds as always, not just land on the turnaround to my thinking. Turnaround to my thinking is kind of an additional turnaround. And I encourage you not to overuse the turnaround to my thinking. Some people start using it everywhere, and it's not always appropriate. So I encourage you to really look at the situation. What's the statement? Does it make sense for me to be using the turnaround to my thinking? You can always try it out, but if it doesn't make sense, then don't use it. For example, here's some typical misuses of the turnaround to my thinking. For example, if it's I want him to listen to me, I would say there's not a turnaround to my thinking there, but people sometimes try, oh, my thinking wants him to listen to me, or I want my thinking about him to listen to me, or I want him to listen to my thinking. For me, these don't make sense, and they just complicate things. And I would much rather just keep it simple with a straight turnaround to the self. I want me to listen to me, turn around to the other. I want me to listen to him, and turn around to the opposite. I don't want him to listen to me. And then there's a whole bunch of sample turnarounds to my thinking that you can review on your own time. And if you have questions about turnaround to the thinking, feel free to let me know.